Reading in bed. Reading in bed.
Well, Amanda.
Yeah.
I was wondering, Amanda has habits sometimes when she goes into one-syllable conversations with me. Don't you, Amanda?
Is this not the one syllable podcast?
Nope. You just had about 5 in that one, so.
Oh, wrong podcast.
Yeah. Bye. See you next month, everybody.
Bye.
No, of course. Seriously, this is Reading in Bed. She is, this month anyway, Amanda Steele. And who am I?
You're Andy N. And next month, I'm going to be somebody else.
Wow.
Dun,
Yes, you
dun,
will.
dun.
Yes, you will be, won't you? Yeah. I first found think of the dates, but I guess you will be, won't you? Do you want to tell people, Amanda?
Well, the next episode will go out when we're not even here. We'll be in two places at once.
Magic.
And I will no longer be Amanda
magic.
Steele.
Oh, come into man. Oh God, no, we're not doing that. Our wedding song, Amanda. Okay, that was a big clue now. What's happening now, Amanda? So,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as of Monday, the 4th of September, when the next episode of Reading in Bed, episode 45 of all things, is due, what's happening, Amanda?
Well, it's the 6th when it's due, isn't it?
Oh, yeah,
No,
6,
no,
sorry, on the 4th of September, sorry, yes, my fault, yeah.
The 4th of September, we're getting married. The 6th of September, when it's due, we'll be on our honeymoon. So we'll be scheduling the release because we won't be here to press all the little buttons.
No, and we certainly won't be like keen on. I was wondering. No, we're not doing it from a hotel room doing book reviews that time. It'd be ridiculous, right? So
live from Travelodge.
Yeah, we're not saying where, okay? Because we want to keep it a surprise, confidentiality. Yeah. So, but anyway, before we get to that, obviously, besides the fact Amanda is recording at Amanda N next month, aren't you? Or Mandy N, just to really confuse people.
Oh, now, possibly outing you with your surname.
I know, yeah. Which has been a carefully marketed hidden secret for another 20 years. I'm going to get outed next month. But anyway, listen. What writing news have you got, Amanda?
I'm continuing with my 12 projects in 12 months, and the latest one is the From the Shadows anthology.
Yeah. Didn't you have something out, and there's something out in July, or am I getting mixed up?
I think it's, two things I had in July. Well, the From the Shadows came out as pre-order, but it's not available to buy until the 27th of August, but you can pre-order it now. And the other thing was the Alicia Black book. Alicia Black is my pen name for the women's fiction book that I write. And that's come out as an audiobook, Lost and Found Part 1.
Rather good as well, everybody. So From the Shadows is even better. Most because I'm in it, but that's the material, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, they're two completely different books.
Yeah, of
There's
course.
Different stuff that I write. If you like one of them, you probably won't like the other.
Yeah, now, if people are wondering, obviously, what is From the Shadows?
There's, including me, you, and Maria who helped us, there's 31 different authors, and they've all got a poem or a short story published, and it's either crime or horror. And sometimes it keeps you guessing to the end whether it's actually a crime and it's a human that's committed it or there's a monster.
I said, and what is happening in relation to that, Amanda? There's a launch, isn't there?
Hopefully there's a launch. There's going to be some kind of launch. I don't know what the launch is yet. It depends on the authors wanting to go to it.
Yeah.
Because it turns out it's highly illegal to go to authors, kidnap them from their beds and force them to do a launch, strangely enough.
I don't know why. So, but anyway, so that's in the future of that one. So watch your space. Keep an eye on the Printed Words page on Facebook for more details on that, Amanda, isn't it? Now, what other news have we got, Amanda? Going more further afield?
I have no idea.
Also, for everybody, I think I'm getting married to this girl next month, and we've just been discussing off air 10 minutes ago what else we would be mentioning, and she's completely forgotten. So I love it. She clearly does faith goes in one ear, out of the other.
Yeah, that's why we're so alike.
I know. Right. It's a good job it's audio only there. Okay. Now, Amanda, what joint projects are we in discussion about doing at the moment?
Yeah, we're going to do a winter sort of Christmas themed book, aren't we?
Yeah, I've sent all my stuff over to Amanda for that the other day, which is a collection of some humorous and some very funny flash fiction and poems. And you're still sorting your side out at the moment, aren't you? So
Yeah, I found 4 to go with it, and I'll probably write some more. I know we've spoken about continuing our little workshop, just the two of us until September. So I'm going to try and write some more pieces when we do that.
good. And should we tell people the name of the book?
It's going to be The Christmas Lights Were All We Could See.
Correct. Now, also as well, we're also working on, anybody remember it from a couple of years ago, we did a little joint collection of 7-word poems, all interlinked into one longer poem, didn't we?
Yeah.
That was called Run Away With Me in 7 words. Now, always tickles me with this one. Hi, Dave. It's Dave Harley, I'm saying here straight away. We had a word with a few people we know to ask them to write little blurbs on the back of the book. And I always remember Dave in this one actually writing a 7-word blurb at the back of the book for us. It was absolutely stupendous.
Yeah, he did a choice of them, didn't he? He said, pick whichever one you like.
Yeah.
And they were all 7 words long.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, everyone's wondering about that. We have a sequel at the moment, which we're writing, Amanda, aren't we?
Yeah.
And what's that called?
Run Away With Me Again in 8 words.
Yeah, no one notices that's 8 words this time. So we're doing 8-word poems, so the 7-word poems. I've got to write my next bit tonight, later on today, and that's probably about half done on that, aren't we, probably, Amanda? So
yeah,
maybe a little bit more. So watch your space. So that's ongoing as well. I've gone and bought out another haiku book last month called Life. I've got it now. What do they call it? Life of Haiku, Amanda, didn't I? My mind's going blank. Haiku of Life. Haiku of Life, that was it. So I'm getting mixed up here. Haiku of Life. And that was 50 haiku poems, all about my life. And on top of that, I've also got a bought out as well. One of these got delayed for a bit through Amazon, I'm not going to say which. I also bought out the first collection of my articles that were on the Sunday Tribune, which the website's just gone down again now, unfortunately. The Arts magazine, where I had a weekly column going from last April. And that's called Adventures in Word and Sound, Volume 1. So the second volume is going to come probably towards the end of the year. So I said, always on the go, we are, Amanda, aren't we? So
yeah.
But what are we doing again today for people?
We're doing Reading in Bed, episode 44.
Yep, and do you want to tell people the first book we're going to review tonight? It's a joint book as well.
It's called Zombie Evolution by Edmond Geanta, if that's how you pronounce it.
I think it sounds right, doesn't it? So, right, do you want me to do the blurb, or would you like to do it?
I can read the blurb if you want.
Go for it.
Okay, she is a fiery descendant of Dracula. He is an Icelandic ex-special forces. And then there is Eve, their 5-year-old. When Gabby is infected by a zombie, devastated and heartbroken, Ray does the impossible to save her. Only she turns into something else, the next step in human evolution. A new female superhero emerges from the ashes of a post-apocalyptic America. While the new Gabby is hunted by the US military, hoping to develop a cure from her DNA, Eve is the one holding the key to the unique bloodline.
Right, okay. Now, this is going to be an interesting review, this, because I know we've got conflicting opinions on this, Amanda, haven't we?
Yeah.
So, right, I think we're going to stick to, as we always do with this, the strengths and weaknesses. Now, I'm going to start off, and I know Amanda might disagree with quite a bit of what I'm going to say here. So, everyone's wondering, this could be Reading in Bed punch up. Couldn't it, Amanda? So,
yeah.
Now, seriously, I felt personally this one. I thought the book got off to a good start with this, and I felt it was fairly action-packed throughout. I thought Ray reminded me a lot of Jack Reacher, and then we went on to everybody else. So, Amanda, tell people, obviously, what you thought of the other characters then, first of all. Then. We'll talk about from the beginning.
I didn't really connect with anybody.
Yeah, I know you've had a lot of trouble with this book, and I've got problems with it. But tell people why you didn't connect to this book, Amanda.
They're just, I mean, obviously it's a fiction book and it's a fictional situation, but I just didn't feel like they were very well rounded.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where with the book itself, we're going to have to base a merge around between strengths and weaknesses here, Amanda, aren't we, straight away? Because I don't think you've got a lot of positive things to say about this book, have you?
The only thing I've got down as a strength is that I liked the idea of it before I started reading it.
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting idea because like it's where they merged, didn't they, the myths of vampires and zombies, and creators tried to create something different from it.
Yeah, but it feels like somebody's been watching Walking Dead and Van Helsing and thought, I could kind of like merge these two together and put a little bit of twist on it and try and make it different and hope nobody notices.
Yeah, that's dead right with that. And I've used a comparison to Jack Reacher for the husband character because definitely he was clearly like basically design man was a built brick shithouse basically, wasn't he? Plowing through dozens of zombies, and it was a guilty pleasure for me. To be honest with you, that's why the first half of the book certainly, and it's when it got to later on with it. So now I said it was because I did like about it. The thing I did like, I thought the prologue was really good. That was set back in the past, wasn't it? When obviously, like you're looking back at the origins of Dracula and stuff like that. I felt it set things up okay then, but it went a bit downhill probably fairly quickly, to be honest with you. That's why. So, because I think you liked the first part of the book, didn't you? Before you got off to a good start, didn't you? But then it went downhill quickly for you as well.
Yeah, and I like the scene that you said as well that you liked about them about the guy clashing the zombies' heads together.
Yeah.
But then later on in the book, he uses the exact same scene again.
Yeah, that was
like it lacked imagination. I think like couldn't you think of anything better? And he's like just doing the same thing again.
Yeah, I felt by the end of the book was running out of steam, and if I'm honest, in this one, I had problems with the bonus features, the second book, because on the second book itself, which had a fairly sizable chunk on certainly the Kindle version I had, it started giving like characterizations to two of the head creatures that obviously like we'd been turned, hadn't they? And it was really flat. I felt it wasn't really developed very well at all, that bit. So,
well, once I got past the first book, I didn't even read the preview of the second book.
I did, and it was one of the ones I got to the end of the first book, and I thought so. It was okay. I thought it wasn't bad, but then like it lost it on the second book for me completely. And I can't recommend it for that reason because I thought the characterization was dicky. That's a good word. Because how did you feel about the dialogue of the major female lead in it, Amanda? Gabby?
I thought it was really cringy when she starts calling her husband my lover. And it's just like, just making me cringe, to be honest. I throw up all over my laptop.
Yeah, it was. No, it was too much. It was a real problem with that, there was. Yeah, and I didn't buy that bit. First of all, I didn't buy it. There wasn't that chemistry between the pair of them when she turned. And I felt the dialogue in it was really stilted from her side of things. That's why. And I felt myself, it was like, I don't know, it seemed like two completely different sort of characters, which is fair enough, but then you've got to build them back up again. You're trying to build their memories, and perhaps that should be done over books, not with a very creepy, like, my lover. And you thought myself, if he turns on and hugs her, is she going to bite him? Or does it kill him? So I had that sort of feeling, and I thought myself, the chemistry, the dynamics of the two characters had changed completely, hadn't it?
Yeah, well, if she had turned around and bit him, if she turned around and bit him and killed him, and then she'd been like impaled by a big stake or something by the US military, I wouldn't have minded so much.
What are you like? Now, it's not hard to say this one, obviously, because she gets reanimated, 2/3 of the way into the book, in some kind of God knows what creature. But how did you feel about the scenes, Amanda, when she started controlling all these other zombies and stuff, and she told the zombies to turn on ones that she couldn't convert? I just found it a bit.
Yeah, but I think the problem is though when you've got something like it's the same with superhero things. There's got to be some kind of weakness as well because otherwise it's just like, well, there's a problem. I'm just going to solve it with my superpower, and it's like there's no risk or reason for the reader to think, oh, I've got to keep reading because I don't know if this is going to turn out. You just think, oh, well, she's just going to solve that.
Yeah, that was the problem I had with it because it's somewhat I've struggled a bit with my fantasy series myself, and it was like I've got like obviously I've got a fantasy on the go where I've got a warlock as main character, a very deeply flawed man, and he's got a 9-foot demon bodyguard. When you're dealing with something like that, it's how you build up. You've got to keep building higher and higher, haven't you? With the enemies that go against them, and
Yeah,
otherwise it
because
gets ridiculous.
yeah, you have to make the readers think that there's some kind of risk. Otherwise, it's just they're not going to be concerned for the character. Are they?
Yeah, that's what problem I had with it. Now I've seen this 7 books in this series, and it does like it ups the ante. But I was reading them, and I thought it's just getting more and more ridiculous. I didn't buy it, and when they started humanizing the zombies in the second book, it was very sketchily done, and I didn't buy it at all. And there is a problem with the characterization in that first book straight away with it, and I didn't necessarily. Are you right? I like Jenkins as a character, and I didn't mind that raid, the bloke read, but the rest of it, no, didn't get it at all. To be honest with you, you weren't happy with the characterization of that raid towards Eve, his daughter, were you?
No, I could understand like a father being concerned for his daughter, but it was bordering on creepy, really, the way he kept thinking about her, like, oh, my beautiful, beautiful girl, and oh, my precious, precious daughter. And it's like, I don't really think like normal fathers think like that, and it's just a bit weird.
Yeah, I was reading up on it, and I'm not sure. I think these books might have been translated. From what I can understand, English isn't the writer's first language, so that's why. But it's one of those ones where I think on paper it could have worked, but I think in reality it was a completely different ball game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's why. So, is there anything else you want to say about this book, Amanda, before we mark it?
No, I don't think so. I think I've torn it to pieces as much as I can.
Let's have a look then. Yeah, I was thinking, there's one other thing I want to bring about this one. I felt the book needed a bit more of a human touch to it because obviously, like the 2 main leads in it were basically on stopping monsters in their own way, weren't they?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I was reading it, I was thinking along the line of the Anita Blake books, the vampire execution books I like. They go over the top, but you've got a female lead in the middle of it you can feel her emotions in it, and it gives that human touch, no matter when things are going up or down. And that was lacking from this book, and it was a big, big hole for me. It was. I think you need to give it that human heart, don't you, so, in books.
Yeah.
That's why, and it was like I said. But that's all I've got to say. So, Amanda, what are you going to give this book a mark on?
I'm giving it a 2 out of 10.
Wow.
It's the lowest I've given a book in a long time.
Wow. Well, I can't recommend it. Like I said, I was a bit dicky in the carrots in the first book. The second extract proved to me it's not going to. It's not. You might get for the first book and think it was reasonable, like I did, but the extract killed it on the second book, so I can't recommend it. 5 out of 10. Cannot recommend it at all. So, but I hate having to do that as well. But I said to guys and girls, as you can see, we've both actually hated a book for once, and it's rare we do that, Amanda, isn't it? So
yeah.
Anyway, right, we're going to take a quick break. Who is me first this time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want a hint about what's coming? Mine's a book.
It's a book. Wow.
It's a book, yeah.
We've not had one of those on this show before.
No, it's very rare, this one. Very rare.
Got pages and everything.
Yeah, and it's set in another world as well. Not as nasty as this world, but it's not, well, it probably is actually, thinking about it. It's another post-apocalyptic book, unfortunately. So, right, okay, guys and girls, we'll take a quick break then. Amanda?
Bye.
Cha-cha. So long. Farewell.
Read in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed with me, Amanda Steele, and
Dear. Okay, on to book number 2, my first solo book this month. Now, it seemed to habit with the 2 solo books I've done this month where I've actually reviewed books by both of these authors before, actually, for Reading in Bed. So the first one I'm going to do is the new one. It's not a new book. The book came out last year by R.Carey, the book of Koli. Do you want the blurb, Amanda?
yeah.
Okay, this is the blurb. Beyond the walls of the small village of Morpurgo Road lies an unrecognisable world. A world where overgrown forests are filled with choker trees and deadly vines and seeds that will kill you where you stand. And if they don't get you, one of the dangerous shunned men will. Koli has lived in Morpurgo Road his entire life. He knows the first rule of survival is you don't venture beyond the walls. What he doesn't know is what happens when you ain't given a choice. The first in a gripping new trilogy, the book of Koli charts the journey of one unforgettable young boy struggling to find his place in a chilling, post-apocalyptic world.
Sounds good. So you read the other book, haven't you, by R.Carey, The Girl with the Gifts?
I've read all his books, actually, honestly.
Yeah.
He's done The Girl with the Gifts, and the sequels out, Boy Under the Bridge. I've done another 2 books on top of that. So, yeah, I've read all of them, so yeah.
So is this better or worse or different in some way?
I think I prefer The Girl with the Gifts, honestly. The girl, I'm going to go talk about female this one today, but it's the heart of it. I struggled a lot with this book, to be honest with you. It had its good points, but there's things I didn't like about this book. Does that make sense, does it?
Yeah.
It's where it's a book like The Girl with the Gifts is set in like the world when it goes to hell. This one's set a couple of 100 years later, where Koli, we meet, lives in a small town of about 200 people, located in a place called England. And that wasn't revealed to very late on either. That. And it's a town that's surrounded by walls because everything outside can kill. Which is more curious because Cole is the youngest son of the town's woodsmith. So you work out the fun that happens there, don't you?
Mm.
That's why. So, is there anything else you want to say, Amanda? Carry on.
Yeah, I'll just say start with the good points first.
Okay. Well, the book itself is, as all series do, you're doing trilogies and stuff. The first book is a huge setup, really, and it focuses on the lad leading the town, heading on to the main part of the story, which comes on to book 2, where he learns that terrible secret about the most powerful family in the town and gets banished. It's not obvious, this book, Amanda, because you know what I mean. You read the first book of some series, it doesn't give you anything away straight away, does it?
No.
This one's like that, where it took a couple. It's about, I think it's 450 pages. It took well over to the halfway point before we began. You give you any sort of hints of what's going on, and it was a funny book for that reason because the pacing seemed a bit weird, really. But you'd liked it where the trees and this one, because the trees in it were literally killers.
All right.
That's why it's like the trees are like monsters waiting outside the villages for you. So as soon as like you step out the trees and the sun's out, they get you.
Bad trees.
Bad trees, yeah. You have to wait till it's raining and stuff, and then we can go out then. So, which in England is probably very probable, isn't it?
Oh,
so,
you'll be all right most of the time, yeah.
Exactly. So, because everywhere else is you've got a problem. So, but it's the mystery seems to be in it when it starts. Little bits of technology start coming into it from our world, and then it becomes apparent very slowly that it's much further along, for a couple 100 years in the future, and something bad's happened.
So is this an easy book to get into, or did it take a while to get to?
I've really struggled with this book. I did. Really struggled with it. The other 2 books I've done this month, I've read them, whether I liked them or not, were much easier to read. This took about a better part of a month to read. But it's because of the way the dialogue was set. They were doing a lot of colloquialisms of the language. He basically set up his own language, and it made the writer had, and it's very, very difficult to keep up with what the characters wanted were saying sometimes because it was a bit inconsistent in places. That's why.
I always think when you've got an author like this who's done other successful books and at least one of them turned into a film, it's like normally they just automatically get published, without having to go through the process that other authors have to go through. So if just say you were a publisher and you got contacted by this author and they were an unknown author rather than being famous, and you read the first chapter, would you decide to publish it based on that, or ask for the rest of the book?
I would have struggled with it. I struggled with the whole book, to be honest with you. I felt it was well written, but it was too long-winded. And I felt a lot of it was a setup. If it had been one book, I could have well seen him being a fairly good book, and he would have covered this 450 pages in about 100. Then you could have moved on to the second part with the third part quite easy. But it was clear, because if you look at the publishing dates of this, Amanda, this one came out in April last year. Part 2 came out in September last year, and the third part came out in March this year. So if you're getting that sort of like publishing, they'd obviously all been wrote, hadn't they? But
yeah.
That's why. I think it's like it was 1,200 pages. He's wrote something, 450 pages per book. You would have thought it had been heavily outlined. He'd probably, as soon as he got permission for the series, he would have probably spent about 2 years writing it. I think his last novel came out in 2018, or maybe 19 even. So it's probably about 2 years' work there, if you know what I mean, for a novelist.
Yeah. So you're likely to read the other book, so you're just going to leave it at this point?
Right. Well, should I go into the weaknesses? I've covered bits and pieces there. That one. So it was one of those ones where the end of it, the last 50 to 100 pages, it seemed to pick up. And the last 50 pages I thought was really good. And the 50 before that weren't bad. And it just took a long time to get to the good bits. And by the end of it, you set things up nicely for the second book with possible rich backing cast as well, which could lead to series goals. And it's really difficult because, I said before, the inverted dialect he used it was very annoying. And it wasn't used consistently. And I don't know, it lacked the richness of the girl with the gifts. And his previous series, the Felix Castor series, which I need to get you to read sometime, because that's about very like John Constantine, basically, by an exorcist in London who's got problems, right? So
yeah,
that's why that's a fantastic series. I cannot recommend the Felix Castor series enough. But it lacked the richness of both of them. It was out. That's why it was. And I do have the second book, actually. I downloaded them both, The Trials of Koli. I'll probably give it a go. I think I'm going to give it a go. I mean, one of those ones I've got it, hoping it will improve. Whether it will, you tell me.
I don't know. I didn't write it.
No, but you know what I mean? Like before you to answer your question, if you've struggled with the first 300 odd pages of a 450-page book and the last 100 it picks up a bit, would you give the second book a go?
I'd probably not. I wouldn't bother.
I know. I was very, very disappointed this book was. It wasn't as bad as the zombie book we just reviewed. Probably, but I did struggle with this book. I felt it was a book that should have been a lot better than it was, because the writer's a very, very good writer.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, really. So, okay. Is there anything else to know, Amanda?
No. So, do you want to give it a mark out of 10?
What do you reckon I want to give it?
I'm really not sure.
Go on, give me a number. Give me a number.
That's 6 or 7.
It's not 7. It's 6.5. I think it just misses out. I had to judge it from the previous book, the zombie, which I didn't really enjoy. This one, I felt it was better, but no great shakes. So that makes sense, doesn't it? So
yeah,
it's what it is. So. Okay, Amanda, that's me done.
Okay.
Right, on to part 3. Amanda, what hints have you got?
I've got a hint that if you just follow the rule, everything will be okay.
Which means you probably don't, and you end up with all kinds of crap, yeah. So, right. Well, see you in a minute, guys. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading and bet.
Hello, guys and girls. It is Reading and Bet, episode 44. She is, at least this month, Amanda Steele. I am Andy N. And now we're over to Amanda's And there's a second solo book. It's not. It's a first solo book this month. Over to you, Amanda.
Okay, so this is called The Rule, and it's by David Jackson. And do you want me to read the blurb?
Yes, please.
Daniel is looking forward to his birthday. He wants fish and chips, a chocolate caterpillar cake, and 6 comics starring his favourite superhero. Daniel will be 23 next week, and he has no idea that he's about to kill a stranger. Daniel's parents know that their beloved and vulnerable son will be taken away. They know that Daniel doesn't mean to hurt anyone. They dispose of the body. Isn't that what any loving parent would do? But as forces on both sides of the law begin to close in on them, they realise they have no option but to finish what they started, even if it means that others will have to die, because they'll do anything to protect him, even murder.
Right, have you reviewed anything by this guy with Gentleman before?
Yeah, I reviewed The Resident last year, which
Was that
was
the book?
about a serial killer hiding in people's houses where the attics were all joined together.
Oh, you did. That's why it rung a bell, this book then for a second. That's why. So I remember you describing that first book as a very, very disturbing book. So
That was one of my favourite books of last year.
But it was disturbing, wasn't it? So, right.
Which is why I like it.
Oh, exactly. We know what you're like then. Okay, then. Now, I'll have to ask you then, obviously, how did this book compare to the previous book?
This was a very different, with very different kind of characters in it. The last one focused on the killer, but he was a psychopath and he had serious issues. This is a different kind of killer because he's a vulnerable 23-year-old who has learning difficulties. And he doesn't mean to kill anyone, and his parents tried to hide the fact from him that he's killed someone because he'd be upset.
So yeah, it sounds like is it almost like a completely different book then, basically, or does it feel like the same author still?
I think it did feel like the same author in places, but it is focusing on very different type of a killer.
Yeah. Okay. Well, give us the strengths of the book then, Amanda. Okay, we're not going into that yet.
I think it makes you think in some ways, because obviously if they went to the police, then the best case scenario you can hope for is that he would be taken into a cell and he'd be questioned, and it'd upset and confuse him, and he wouldn't have his parents there to support him. And even if they decided, it was some kind of self-defense, he was protecting his dad, he'd probably be locked up in an institute, because they'd say, well, if he can accidentally kill someone, then we'll have to lock him up for other people's safety. So there's no real outcome to it where we can just walk away free and say, oh, we understand you didn't mean to kill anyone. So that's why the parents understand that, and they try to cover it up and hide it from the police.
Yeah. So, okay. Is there anything else strengths-wise in this book you want to carry on with? I've got a question I want to ask you about this, but we'll come on to that probably more on the weaknesses.
I really like the character of Daniel. It's he lives on an estate, so there's a lot of rough people about and drug dealers, and a lot of people take the mickey out of him because of his learning difficulties. But he's just very childlike and innocent, and he gets really upset when he finds out what he's done. And he's not violent or wanting to hurt anybody. So you feel sorry for him in a way, because he's had this happen to him where he's accidentally killed someone and he didn't mean to.
Yeah. That's a major question behind it, really, because I think when you're doing this sort of book like that, the narrative, you've got to, I'm using that word again here, it's the third part of the trot, it's the connectability, isn't it? The heart of the book. Because if you just portrayed him as a bastard, put any better word, I think people would have struggled with this book, wouldn't they? You've got to get to people feel sorry for the character, and we're right with that.
Yeah, so it's a different way to the first book where the killer, it sort of delves into his background, then you can see how he's become a killer, but you don't feel sorry for him now because he's just clearly, psychotic. This one is just, it's a lot more, there's a lot more of a grey area.
Sounds like it as well, with it straight away with that. What I'm interested to know with this book as well, Amanda, is didn't you get this off one of your reading websites or something? Am I imagining things here?
Yeah, I got it from Pigeonhole.
Yeah, now everyone's wondering, what is Pigeonhole, Amanda?
So it's free to sign up, even though they've started a Patreon thing now where you can get guaranteed acceptance onto all the books. But you can sign up for free and apply for a place reading the books. And if you get accepted, it's usually over 10 days where you get a section each day to read.
Yeah. So how did this feel then, this book then? Reading it and that sort of thing. Was it a book where you could have read more of it at one go, or was 10 days about right for you?
Yeah, I would have read more. I probably would have read it in about 5 days if I had the actual book in front of me. And the way it was ending, and I was often like waiting for the next day and thinking, oh no, I hope Daniel's going to be all right, even though he's a fictional character.
Now, if anyone's wondering with these sites, isn't there usually as well like a forum for people post comments about the book each day, isn't there?
People can post comments by the side of it, so as you're reading, you'll see a number by the side. But I think I was reading a lot of it on my phone, and the way I have to zoom in on it, I just try to ignore those because it's a bit more complicated trying to see them on my phone and then going back to the reading.
Yeah, well, I thought I was right with that. So, yeah. So, obviously, I can't ask you then basically what did people think of the book, but certainly. Anyway, what were the weaknesses in this book for you, Amanda? Was there any?
There weren't really any weaknesses. I know you'll know that I don't like books that solely focus on like a detective or police officer. And it was 50-50, I think. It was split between the narrative of like Daniel and his family and the drug people. Well, I'm not going to try not to ruin too much, but the friends or family of the druggie that Daniel accidentally kills. And then there was also the narrative of the policewoman that's trying to solve the murder. But it was done in a way where it wasn't really cliche. Like last month, I can't remember what it was that we read now, but it was very cliche with the detective that was trying to solve the murder or whatever it was. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, I get completely. So, yeah, I'm seeing completely about that. So, okay. Is there anything on the weaknesses that otherwise you want to talk about?
No, I think everything was just really well written.
Okay, so I'm guessing then with this one, it's going to be a reading about a recommendation. So, do you want to give us the mark?
Yeah, it's not quite as good as The Resident, but it's a different kind of story. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.
Well, that's very good then. So, I'm guessing, and obviously, when he brings his third book out, then do you think you will at least consider reading it, won't you?
Yeah, definitely. Because when I first saw this come on to Pigeonhole, I've been trying not to read too many on there now because I've got a backlog of books on my Kindle and in the bookcase and in a big box and scattered all over the flat that I'm trying to get round to. But as soon as I saw this, I thought, I've got to try and get a place reading that. I need to read that.
Good. I said 9 out of 10 is the best recommendation we've had this month so far, definitely. So, that's why. So, well done. Well done. So, okay. That's the end of part 3. What comes next, Amanda?
You're next.
I'm next. And do you want a hint?
Yeah.
Magic. That's my big hint. So should we let people wonder what I'm on about?
Yeah. I've got that song in my head now. But I'm not going to sing
magic. Oh, I better stop it now because I can't do take back impressions, right? So we'll see you 1 minute, guys. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed. He's Andy N. And who am I?
She is soon to be Amanda N. But for this month is Amanda Steele. Part 4 is my second solo book of the month, isn't it, Amanda?
Yeah.
And what do you want to know?
I want to know what the book's called and who it's by.
Okay, Michael Morpurgo, and the book is called, and it's got 2 names in this book. The one I'm going to call it is Arthur, High King of Britain.
Okay, so is there a blurb for this?
Yes, there is. Okay. Marooned on a sandbank, a boy faces certain death, with the sea closing in and the current about to drag him to a watery grave. His final wish is to see heaven. Waking in a strange bed, the boy meets an old man sitting by a fire with his dog. It is King Arthur, the great warrior of legend, and from his lips the boy hears Camelot, chivalry, magic, evil and betrayal.
Okay. So, haven't you read any other books by this author?
Yes, I've read a few actually. Well, I think I've reviewed just two for reading in bed, and that was Why the Whales Come and Escape to Sher Lang, and they were both brilliant, really, really good, short, concise books. Particularly Why the Whales Come, but both of them were good because they were like set in realistic times, usually about the 30s or 40s, and dealing with children, dealing with like proper problems. This one's completely different. I'm sure you can guess, can't you? We're talking about King Arthur.
Yeah.
That's why. So it's, what do you want to know?
Let's start with the good points.
Okay, well, you can say, well, obviously, with Why All the Whales Come and Escape to Sher Lang are both, said before, set in a modern setting, and both are certainly more softer and subtle in places. This one's very different because it's focused on the legend of King Arthur. When we said before, when a young boy who basically wakes up in a cave, meets Arthur, sits down and tells him his story. And the difference here is the child, instead of being the narrator, is the vehicle for him to tell the story. Now, is there any questions you want me to ask? You want to ask Amanda about specific characters and legends of Arthur? So you know some of the major characters from Merlin, the TV series, don't you?
Yeah. I watched Merlin and I used to like him and Guinevere.
Yeah.
I've forgotten the name of the knights now.
I could be very rude there, but I'm not going to be, right?
Good night and bad night.
No, I was thinking of Lancer. No, Lancelot.
Okay.
Anyway, nice. But what else do you want to know, Amanda? Seriously, from me before we start.
Yeah, so which characters were in the book that I would know, or even ones that I wouldn't know?
There was a few I didn't know too much of it. So, but if you do your research on King Arthur, it started legend of Guinevere, which came up in about the 12th century. And it's all rumoured to have been around about the 5th or 6th century, but it's very unclear whether it actually happened, and there's been so much bastardization of it over time. It's unlikely it ever happened, really, honestly. So, but you'd know characters Guinevere straight away, and Lancelot, when I mentioned him for you, and Merlin, that was the major three I knew about King Arthur. And then he went to Morgan Le Fay, who was the major female baddie and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But is there anything specific you want me to tell you about this, or talk more about it?
No, just focus on the good points first, and then go to the bad points.
Okay. Yeah, well, I've read a fair few books of this over the years, and I've read up this before, and it does appear to be a mixture of different versions of the legends. And it's clear the author has researched this and used to play. He's done it his own style, basically, some thumbprint on it. And despite the hinting of, for a child book, which is a bit surprising, the hinting of sex and there is a hint of violence on it. It's, if you read reviews, lots of adults have read them to the kids and stuff. And it's got one of those books where it's got a slight hint in it that I think he's crossed very, very carefully with as an author. And he made that work, I told you he did so. Because like, what would you know, for example, Amanda, Arthur's big fault in Legends was he basically raped a woman, he did, and she got pregnant.
No, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it's some of the legends. It's Morgan Le Fay, which is his sister. So he's basically, his sister ends up turning into this wicked sorceress, and she gets pregnant by her own brother and sends her son, his son, after him. So that's what I mean. So like, it gets a bit like, you know what I mean? It's a bit of a morally grey area, really. So that's why. So it was interesting because I didn't necessarily get a lot of anything new out of it because I've read some much better books on this than it really. But no, but it was good for children. It was a very, very good book, I felt.
Okay, so are there any more good points, or do you want to move on to
yeah, I've got one more thing I want to touch on here. Is Arthur and Merlin, because this bit was quite interesting, this was. Arthur was certainly somewhat more human than I'd seen before in the book. He's always been a bit more distant in all the books read, and probably a bit more crueler as well. And Merlin, if you ever seen Merlin talking about the wizard, he's usually quite a manipulative character. You know, like the puppet master behind the scenes more, really. And I found him very sad and weary throughout this book, which I think was a nice touch, actually. That's why. So,
Okay.
Do you want to go on to weaknesses?
Yeah.
I was very disappointed with Guinevere in this book. She just simply didn't have much to do. Same with Morgan the Frey as well, the other female lead. And Lancelot was a bit in the background as well, truth be told you. So it was one of those ones where I would have liked to see more of them because it just didn't seem to have much to do with them. And I said, because I was disappointed with Guinevere, it's probably down to the fact is, have you ever read a book called The Mists of Avalon by Marion Zimmer Bradley?
No.
You should read that. I reckon that's another book everyone should read. That's the Arthur myths and told through the eyes of the women. So you get Morgan le Fay, Guinevere, the lady of the lake, and a few other people. So it's told through their viewpoints, and it's a vastly superior book to this one. But it does go on for 900 odd pages.
Yeah,
It's
so
not-
it's a short read before bedtime.
Yeah, I might go back and read it because I review it towards the end of the year for reading in bed. It's going to take a while to read that book. Will do so. I think I've got it somewhere. And like I said, but I felt the use of some of the backing cast to this, I won't name, was a bit inconsistent in places. And while the setup, while great, it's one of those ones where you're telling a story to somebody, aren't you?
Yeah.
The danger is, tell me if you agree with this. If say you get a setup beginning where two people meet and they're telling a story, is you get information dumping happening sometimes, don't you?
Yeah.
And that was a real problem there in Act. It happened way too much to me in that book. This book, to honest me on personal taste.
What I don't like in books is usually if people are having a conversation and they're telling each other things that they should probably know already.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at in this place. I felt
Yeah.
a bit that way in territory me in this book. And that was a bit of a major problem area I had with this, the book, to be told you. Because the other two books I've read, they were much more naturalistic books and were very haunting as well. Perhaps on Escape from Shangri-La got a bit ridiculous, but While the Whales Come was really, really a harrowing book. But it stood its ground well. But this one, it wasn't his best book.
Okay. So is there anything more you want to say before you give it a verdict?
No.
And mark?
Shall I move on to the marking?
Yeah.
How do you think I'm going to mark it?
I think you might just recommend it, or you might not.
It's a 7, so it gets a recommendation. It's unfortunately in Sea Guys and Girls, it's not been a good book for me. The books this month, I've read 2 I didn't really like, and this one, yeah, it gets over the finish line. It was just not his best book. For youngsters, I think it's a good one for kids to read to get to know as an introduction to Arthurian myths. But it's not the best book I've read to King Arthur by any stretch of thought. Okay, Amanda, that's me done.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want a hint about my next book?
And the finale for episode 44.
We're going into non-fiction land.
Oh, wait, about to say we're going into the woods today. We're going to go into the woods today.
No.
Not after my first solo book, definitely not. So cool. My little guys and girls then. See you in a minute then. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
See you in a minute.
Reading in bed.
Hey guys, yep, the finale. Episode 44. Reading in bed. She is, for the last time, Amanda Steele. I am Andy N.
Soon to be Andy Steele.
I hope not. Might be getting divorced.
You don't want to carry on my family's legacy.
Do you want to answer that? No comments. Okay, Amanda, what is your last book for the month?
Right, so my last book is From Reads to Leads, 11 Principles of Writing Content People Will Read and Respond to. And I'm probably going to mispronounce this author, but I'm going to try and pronounce the name as much as I can. Kateryna Abrosymova. And I hope that's as close as possible to pronouncing the name without going too wrong.
Right, okay. What made you want to do this then?
So I came across this woman on Readsy, and she was promoting a content writing book on there. And now, obviously, you know, I do copywriting and content writing,
Yeah.
and I was interested in reading it and reviewing it for the podcast. So she agreed to let me do that.
Oh, fair play. No, fair play. No, fair play. So, okay then. So, with this non-fiction book, I know there's exercises in this book, so it's a bit of a tricky one to go through. So I'm going to have to just talk about this book generally then. How did you find this book? I don't think you can give it strengths and weaknesses in an obvious way, this one.
No, well, there's 11 different principles that are outlined in this book that help you to write, and there's different exercises related to each one of them. So I worked through them and did some of the exercises. And I think the first one was something to do, it's a technical one anyway, and it was about writing for business to business. So both areas I don't really have experience in. So I did kind of adapt that one to something that I'm more experienced at. And I managed to write something based on that. But I couldn't help feeling like I was probably missing out on the point of learning.
Yeah, it sounds like it's one of those sort of books, doesn't it? So did you feel like something went over, some of it wasn't applicable to you then?
I think, yeah, but with the different content and different things that she's telling you about in the book, I don't think everything is going to apply to everybody, but I think there's going to be something that everyone can take away from the book.
Yeah, it's so yeah. So what have you been able to take away from this book then?
I've managed to get a few exercises that I'm happy with, which I'm going to add to a different section of my online portfolio, just in case I'm ever applying for freelance work in years and they say like this piece of content and say, well, I'm not writing for free for you, but I do have this that fits with it, which is just an example piece I've written rather than for a company. So hopefully I'll be able to use them for that.
Oh, pretty well. No, good luck with it, definitely. So do you want to give us an example of what sort of exercises there was there, Amanda? We don't have to go through it in more detail, of course.
I don't have access to them on here now.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah.
I did write one that I tailored myself that was supposed to be something else, but it just didn't fit with my skills and knowledge that I had. And it was like an advertising copy for having dress alterations, which obviously you can tell why I had that on my mind.
Yeah, well, I'll have to tell people basically this one. You've had some issues with wedding dresses, to put it nicely, Amanda, haven't we?
Yeah, I had trouble finding somewhere that alters dresses, and I was using some of the advice in the book about like writing about a situation that appeals to a certain customer and trying to sort of, as if you're speaking to them rather than, oh, we're going to alter your dress. I was doing it in a way like, have you heard this happen to you? And it was something that had happened to me, and hopefully other people can relate to.
Yeah, no, I said I get completely under with it. So, like I said, it's just one of those things really with that. So, definitely so. Now, was there anything about this book you weren't that keen on or happy with?
I didn't know what to expect, to be honest. I thought, oh, I might know a lot of it because I've been doing this for 18 months now, but there's an awful lot that even though I've covered a lot, there's still a lot that I haven't covered that I didn't know. So I felt I got something from the book, and I'll probably go over it again and maybe redo some of the exercises and just write different things. Because I think it's the kind of thing you can read numerous times and you could write different content for each of the exercises each time you go through the book.
Yeah. No, getting clear of it. So, yeah, cool. Now, is there anything else you want to talk about this book, Amanda, before you mark it for us?
No, I think it's a really useful book. I think if you're doing any kind of content writing or copywriting or even just marketing your own book, I think you should definitely give it a try because you'll get something out of it.
Cool. Okay, then. So that's all you've got to say about this book. What mark are you giving this out of 10?
I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Looking enough, buddy. Amanda's done one book 2 out of 10 and 2 9 out of 10 now. So that gives us an average, man. You do realize a 20 out of 30 this month, doesn't it, for you? So
yeah.
It's impressive. So, well, excellent. That's good to me. So, right. Well, anyway, guys and girls, that's our 5 books this month. Now, what are we doing next month, Mando? Did we say we were doing that book, that dating book next month?
Yeah, and we're also doing a science fiction book.
Are we doing that one together as well? Are we then next
Yeah.
month? It might be a short episode then, because we can tell people now. We're doing. Well, I've certainly read half of this book. I've read quite an interesting book by a lady called Laurie Hardacker, who's coming in on Spoken Label probably October, November. And I do apologise for the bad language in this book. Her dating book is called Dating What the Fuck, which is a fantastic title, Amanda, isn't it? So
Yeah. Well, of course, now we've got to click the explicit button when we upload this online.
yeah, unfortunately,
And then we've also got to do that next month as well.
yes, repeatedly. Now, we've just got and downloaded each this morning, haven't we, as well? A sci-fi thriller book by Matthew Fitzsimmons called Constance, and I've read that right.
Yeah.
So we've got those two, and I'm guessing we're going to see how we go for next month, because it's, to be honest with you folks, next month, obviously, we're away when it gets released. So this will have to get recorded a bit earlier. So we'll just have to see how we go time-wise, what we get read next month. But certainly it'd be at least 2 books, and then we're both going to try and do another one each as well, aren't we? So
Yeah.
here we go. Anyway, guys and girls, well, that's me done. So it's bye from me.
Bye from me. It's been nice knowing you as Amanda Steele.
Yeah, next month. Say bye to everybody, Amanda. Yeah, not me. Also, it'll always bye to Amanda Steele, because next month, who are you? Who are you? Who are you?
I'll be Amanda. I'm not going to out you just yet. I'll out you next month.
Oh, really? Right. Seriously, guys, stay safe. And Don Callis says, stay over. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
See you all next time, guys. Stay safe.
Read in bed. Read in bed.